This week's Piltch Point with Avram Piltch is proudly powered by PureVPN. The best way to protect your privacy online is with PureVPN. You can hide your online activities, say goodbye to regional restrictions, and improve your streaming quality. Plus, it's available for almost all of your devices. And you can get a special price and a 31-day money-back guarantee right now by going to pilchpoint.live/PureVPN. All right. So we talked about chip shortages possibly coming up, but the current situation is not entirely that dire.
So let me give you some good news. Good news. I have some good news. So the good news is that the availability of graphics cards are getting more available, and prices of graphics cards are going down. Now, this is quite a dilemma, and we're going to talk about. I've been working on an updated list of recommended PC builds, and I can actually take you through some of the recommendations. And we'll have this published this week, but I can tell you right now what they are. But one thing that's interesting to note is just how affordable, I should say, relatively affordable it is to get a graphics card compared to a few months ago. So what does that mean? Graphics cards are not selling anywhere near their MSRPs. They're still much higher. They're still, 50%, 60% marked up. So not exactly a great time to get a graphics card, but you can get them at Newegg. You can get them at Amazon. You can get the graphics cards there. Whereas up until recently, the only place you could get them was usually either by luck that, your local store would get one in, or we saw that horrible situation. Did we talk about the situation with Best Buy and them charging people $200 for the right to attempt to buy a video card?
Yeah. I think we've mentioned it in passing. I don't know that it was a topic, but I know that we've discussed it on one of the shows.
Yeah, so
it's wild.
And then you have the Newegg Shuffle, where you can enter a drawing to win the right to buy a graphics card.
Somebody referred to that as Newegg Scalper.
Right. And not necessarily buy it at MSR anywhere close to MSRP. Right. So it's not necessarily a great situation. However, now you actually can go and you can find these cards readily available, although not necessarily at the prices you want. And this makes it so that, hey, you can build a PC. So because I wouldn't say that counting on scalpers on eBay to have something is a great strategy for building your PC. So first of all, I want to start off by showing you a tool that, I meant to hit the share screen, by showing you a tool that I really like, which is a PC part picker. So I love this website, PC Part Picker. I wish I could make a tool like this. And this is a great. Now, I won't say that the stock on this is 100% up to date in real time. It's close. But now if you go here and you go to the system builder, right, which is where I'm at, and then you can see different things. So if you go choose a video card, right, it used to be the case that like 99% of the stuff was out of stock. But I can go here and I can reasonably find, let's say, a really good mid-range graphics card now would be the 3060 Ti, right? And if I sort this by price, I can now get, no, maybe it's not working like it was on Friday. What if I try a 3060? Okay, better yet, 3060, right? If I choose a 3060, I can now see that I can now easily see there are all these different places that have it. Similarly, if I just go to Amazon and I look for a 3060 Ti, right, I can see here that, not to say that they're cheap, but, $818, $774, $849. Hey, I could actually get one. There's like multiple different models available, and they're not selling out immediately. So I guess if they were MSRP, they would sell it immediately. So why why is this happening? Because the mining market has imploded in a way. There's just not as much money to be made in crypto mining as there was. And when we talk about mining primarily on the PC, we're talking about Ethereum mining because Bitcoin is done with specialized machines called ASICs. And most of the other non Ethereum or Bitcoin cryptos are not worth enough to make it worth it. Now, I believe we talked on this. I believe we talked a few weeks ago about how much money, how many years it would take you to break even on a graphics card if you were mining. And I think
Absolutely.
that message, maybe it's because I talked about it. I don't know. But the message has gotten out. And I think that there's fewer miners out there snapping up these cards. So they're more available to regular consumers to buy. So, what does that mean for you? If you want to build a PC? Well, let's talk for a second about how inexpensively you could build a PC. So, a few years ago, we start at Tom's Hardware started to do a story on the best PC builds, and we would try to price out. Here's what you can get for under $500. Here's what you can get for under 1,000. Here's what you could build for under 2,000. And this was a very hard thing to maintain over the last year or two because what we'd really have to say is who knows what you can build, because if you want a graphics card you've got to buy it off of eBay, and that's not a stable thing. So now we're revisiting the lists, and we can actually recommend some things for under 1,000 or under um, under 1,500, and it's quite feasible for you to get them. So what you can do, so for less than $500, what our recommendation is that you build around a Ryzen 5 5600G. That is a Ryzen CPU, or otherwise known as an APU in this case, with good Radeon Vega integrated graphics. So you will not be buying a discrete graphics card. And you can get that chip and a B450M motherboard, 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, a 500 gigabyte WD Blue SN550 SSD, and a 450 watt power supply, and a Cooler Master case uh, with a nice tempered glass window on the side for $488 today, uh, which is really not
Wow.
bad. Now that's only going to get you to 720p gaming. Oh, I should also give the caveat that when I say these prices, I'm not including the cost of buying Windows, because you may have Windows already or be able to get it for cheap or free. And of course, you'll need keyboard and mouse and a monitor, as you always do. So now, now for what can you do for under 1,000? For under 1,000, you can get a system with 32 gigs of RAM, a 1 terabyte Samsung 970 Evo SSD, Ryzen 5 5600X CPU, and either RTX 3050 or Radeon RX 6600 graphics. And those cards are both around $400 to $450. So, we're seeing, hey, you could get a okay graphics card. I would call these kind of low end for about $400. So not not terrible. That system by current prices would cost you, that I've just named, with an a nice NZXT case and a 550 watt Corsair bronze 80 plus bronze power supply, would comes to $996 today. What the next step up after that is to get a system with RTX 3060 graphics, um, and a Intel Core i5 12400 CPU, and again, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 2 terabyte SSD, uh, and a 650-watt power supply for 1486. And of course, if you can splurge a little bit more and get a 3060 Ti instead of a 3060, that will be maybe another $100. So you're talking about a 3060 is about $700, 3060 Ti about $825. So that would take you up around $1,600, but not terrible. Now, um, later this week, you'll see the full article where we'll also mention our high end and super high end recommendations, which would cost you about $2,200 and $3,500 to build. Uh, those are, of course, kind of pulling out a lot of the stops on things like cooling and the CPU and so on. But I think the message is you can build a system. It's not, is this a great time to get a graphics card? That kind of remains to be seen, doesn't it? Because we're kind of betwixt and between, right? It could be the case that this is a respite in shortages because of the neon situation. Maybe crypto mining makes somewhat of a comeback, although there's reason to believe that Ethereum is not going to make a comeback in the sense that it's going from a proof of work to a proof of stake model, which means that it's not going to require these hefty calculations from a graphics card. So uh, on the other hand, could there be worse shortages in the future? So you can get a graphics card now. If the current trends continue, though, the prices will definitely go further down. But at least you're in a position where you can build a PC. And then the final thing I bet someone would ask is, well, how does this compare to buying an off-the-shelf computer? Because there has not really been a huge shortage of graphics cards if you're willing to buy a pre-built PC. Buying a pre-built PC has been the easiest way to get your hands on a 3080 or a 3070 or a 3060 graphics card, because there's been a lot more supply going to OEMs like Alienware and Lenovo and HP than there has been going to off-the-shelf graphics cards that you put in your own system. So what I have found is that the prices are fairly similar, except that once you start talking about the RAM and storage, building your own, it comes out cheaper. So I've seen like 36 Best Buy selling a desktop with a 3060 card inside for like $1,300. But, it doesn't have a 1 terabyte SSD in there. It doesn't have, 32 gigs of RAM. It doesn't have, so you definitely come out ahead on the cost of RAM and storage, and you get a chance to kind of better craft your system, as always, if you build it yourself.
Fair enough. Yeah, you get that fine grain control when you're building it yourself.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always companies that let you build it yourself without building it yourself, but those don't tend to
Oh,
be
those are more
in the
money.
same. Yeah,
Those are
those don't tend to be in the same price category as actually
yeah,
building it
those
yourself.
are yeah, those are more expensive. So yeah, I mean, you will occasionally, like I said, see Best Buy or something selling a desktop with one of these for perhaps less than you would add it up to, although only if you're not. I mean, generally speaking, in my calculations, you come out ahead by building it yourself. You may not come out very far ahead.
Okay.
Um, it may be almost break even. Uh, so it it really depends. I mean, some of the systems that you'll see that are going for a low price point with these things, they're gonna find a way to save money, like giving you a 500 gigabyte SSD, which is really really low,
Right.
or giving you a hard drive or something like that, which you don't want. So
Fair enough. And I know you said that it's not out yet, but it will be coming out this week, right?
yes, so we have a best PC builds page, which we're updating with all this stuff, and probably Tuesday or Wednesday we'll have it updated with all these new build recommendations. So come check it out at Tom's Hardware. And if you think, by the way, just out of to combine our last two topics, one of the things I've been really following the last week because I'm really curious is what's the graphics card situation like if you live in Russia? Is
Mm-hmm.
your like are the prices going shooting way up yet? Because not only is the value of the ruble gone down, but also you have to figure that there's been a lot of sanctions that I think would prevent a lot of these, consumer electronics being sold to businesses in Russia.
Yeah.
And so far, I want to say that you can still get everything. Um, for example, I'm on a website right now that called citylink.ru, which apparently is a big electronic vendor in Russia. And I looked for NVIDIA graphics cards, and they have them all. But how much do they cost? A lot. So a 3060 card, um, a 3060 card, according to this, will cost 156,970 rubles, which translates by today's exchange rate to 1,400 and something dollars. So, that's about double what it's costing in the U.S. And I also have to wonder whether any of these stores yet have adjusted their prices for the value of the currency. Like, have they raised the prices yet to totally take into account the drop in the value of the ruble? Because, like, I'm translating the rubles to dollars, but if you took, even like a week or a week and a half ago, you took the value of the ruble, this would actually be a lot more than $1,400.
Right. Yeah.
So
Like, if you were to compare the ruble of today to the ruble of 14 days ago.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know, and there's not really a great like PC part picker for Russia that I found that would tell you like what the price was on something 2 weeks ago versus today. But we have been kind of tracking that story a little bit on Tom's Hardware just to see if like this is going to result in as I would expect uh, massive issues, shortages for folks who live in Russia for getting these fine components. But so far, it looks like everything is available. And I hadn't really studied Russian pricing before, so I don't really know whether maybe it was normally $1,400 or normally 150,000 rubles like a month ago. And so, because things are, probably more expensive in a lot more expensive in some countries than they are in the U.S. For a lot of reasons. So I don't know, but if you want, if you really want something to see expensive, a RTX 3090 card, which to be fair is a $1,500 MSRP card that is normally what $3,000 or something in the US these
Right.
days, is selling for 605,000 rubles, which I believe is like $5,800. Um, so I suggest not. I suggest getting a 3080 instead. uh, but but yeah, it's obviously it's pretty expensive to buy a graphics card there.
Sure. Well, I'd imagine that's going to be the general case for a lot of things going forward. Uh,
Yep.
but anyway, thank you, Avram. Getting to
Yeah.
see information on the cards becoming available, not at MSRP,
Yeah.
but being able to be had at all
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
really an advance.
Yeah, it is. It is. So, we will see whether the global situation makes things worse.
Right.
On the other hand, although I think Russia only accounted for like 1.5% of I think the semiconductor market, you will if these sanctions are in place so that it's hard for them to import graphics cards, that may make it more graphics cards available in other countries,
Perhaps.
particularly if folks were crypto mining in Russia, and crypto mining might be more popular there now because um, crypto is maintaining value much more
True.
than the ruble is. So
True. Yeah, because Bitcoin and Ethereum have basically been doing this, but they've been sitting on a pretty, you know, oscillating on a pretty
right,
even line. The line is lower than it
right.
was 6 months ago, but it's been oscillating on a pretty solid line the last couple weeks.
Oh, and some of the exchanges have said that they're not pulling out of Russia,
Yeah,
whereas
coin.
Visa and Mastercard are.
Yeah.
So
Yep. It's an interesting time across a lot of industries right now. We're going to talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. But as always, Avram, definitely appreciate the look into availability again, because yay, availability again. Fingers crossed it only gets better. I don't know that that's
yeah,
going to be the case, but let's hope.
yeah.
And as always, I look forward to what we talk about next. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Piltch Point with Avram Piltch. If you did, please subscribe to our channel, and of course, hit the notification bell since subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. And if you've got topics you'd like us to discuss in the future, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. If you don't want to follow us on YouTube, that's okay. There's a lot of other ways that you can follow our content. You can find all of that by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all the different ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.